One position, with a few variations, can absolutely transform your hip mobility forever. This position is found in many disciplines across the world, including yoga, gymnastics, and martial arts. Before chairs, this is a position people would have found themselves in constantly. With the help of a few movement coaches, I'm going to show you how this one position can completely transform your mobility. Shinbox, one leg in front, one leg behind. Knees fully bent, back knee points in front of you rather than behind, because this is a much more comfortable and accessible position to sit in. Sitting on the ground is a human basic. It's something we're designed to do, and it automatically maintains a healthy amount of mobility. I love the way Ben, knees over toes guy, puts it right here.
I don't believe human bodies were made wrong. So where you have a mobility issue, there's probably been a big deviation from natural. So level one, just floor sit your whole life.
Now he goes on to say that him, like myself, like many others, lost this ability due to injuries, sitting in chairs, and maybe most importantly, removing floor sitting from our life. So the most low-hanging fruit, bring it back into our lives. But I've worked with 60, 70-year-olds who are nowhere near accessing this position. But just about anybody can sit like this and rotate the knees side to side. These are known as hip swivels, and it's one of the most effective ways to start working on hip rotation. Over time, the hips loosen and the knees start getting closer to the ground. Rather than trying to cram yourself into an uncomfortable seated position, these help to gently guide your nervous system into the shin box position. And even if you're leaned over to the side, this is an excellent starting point. If you do this consistently, your body will respond. It'll change. It's not really stretching. It's more working with the nervous system to allow this basic human position. But now let's get to stretching. From Shinbox, extend your knees to 90-degree angles. Now we reach the strict 90-90 position, which is far more demanding on the body. It takes more mobility from the hips and the torso, and hand assistance is usually required to get started. The front hip is in external rotation, the back hip in internal rotation, and also what we'll discuss later, a fair amount of hip abduction. First, I want to share this stretch that really transformed my hips early on. Pigeon, most iconic yoga pose, was far too demanding for me starting out my flexibility journey. One of the first guys I saw talking about 90-90 Pigeon was Merrick, bodyweight warrior. Tom has some legendary flexibility routines on YouTube. He uses 90-90 and hip swivels in almost every routine that he does. I started using 90-90 Pigeon and it was my entry point. I found my hips were extremely stiff from heavy squats and lots of sitting. It didn't happen overnight, but this slowly brought back my natural mobility. Let's see how Tom teaches it here.
If you find yourself kind of leaning off towards the side in this position, you want to grab yourself a block and just elevate this front foot. So we want to think about first leaning forward. As we lean forward, notice how I'm rotating. So my sternum is going to face directly over this leg and I'm going to feel like this hip is rolling forward. Just lean forward, keeping the spine mostly neutral, thinking about the movement happening in the current hips and feeling this stretch in this front leg glute. But it's worth just trying to like rotate a bit and even play with where the sternum is in relation to the knee. So I can come over here, or as I move a little bit more maybe towards the shin, it's going to dig in a bit more to the piriformis.
Andreo Spina has taught and popularized 90-90 through his teachings with functional range conditioning. He teaches this slow, articulated 90-90 transfer. The point of FRC is strength and control of as many ranges of motion as possible. Let's check out how he teaches this here.
Open up this trail leg. And then from here, we're going to end up in what we call a bear sit position. In the bear sit position, you can spend a little bit of time activating your glutes, trying to get those knees all the way down to the ground, pushing down as hard as you can. Then we're going to pivot on the opposite leg, and we're going to close down this hip. And you notice now we end up on the opposite side, 90-90.
In my opinion, start with Shinbox, make the transition to 90-90 if and when you're ready for more. Ido Portal, legendary movement coach, used the Shinbox Hip Lift with a lot of his students. I was one of them in 2018, and after training them for 6 months straight, I was rewarded with hips that felt great and a comfy deep squat I thought I'd never attain with my longer legs. As we swivel the hips to the ground, the back leg goes into internal rotation. Although Pigeon is more popular, it's often the back leg that's the biggest limiter. But we can turbocharge this strength by pressing the knee into the ground and lifting the hips. And it's often the lowering where we can make strength and range of motion gains in internal rotation. People find that even if your Shinbox position is bad, you can work on these by starting from the top. Rotate your torso towards the back leg and only go as deep as feels comfortable. You'll probably find the ground sit way better after. You can also use hand assistance for those deeper ranges. If you watch toddlers, they naturally do this W sit position. My kids do it often. We can wish, but we'll never have hips like toddlers again. But this is how an adult can train themselves to have half that capability. And hip internal rotation allows you to move better into hip flexion, which explains the squat gains. Lack of hip internal rotation often associated with pain and pinching. If you struggle with a deep squat, you may see some real results like I did. Often back leg internal rotation is blamed for not being able to sit in the 90-90 position, but your leg is actually lifted to your side in hip abduction. My friend Garrett from G-Money Movement breaks down the limitation here.
Once we run out of space here, where's that motion going to come from? Rib cage closing down, so the pelvis is going to hike. This is not only abduction, it's also hip extension. We'll see this is basically similar, something like this. Hips extended and abducted. And, we don't need a ton of internal rotation to stay in this position, right?
If we were to do a standing version of 90-90, we lift the knee to the side while maintaining internal rotation. Muscles that work, glutes. Muscles that need to stretch, adductors and hamstrings. Interestingly, this is basically a side kick, so it's no surprise that Muay Thai, karate, kung fu athletes who kick a lot often have amazingly mobile hips. Garrett shows a great drill to work on this, I'll link it below. But we can use 90-90 to make improvements here with contractions. Place your hand on the backside knee. Push your knee up into the hand as hard as you can and hold that for around 3 to 4 seconds. Immediately after, press the knee down into the ground for 3 to 4 seconds. We're essentially firing up those muscles in both directions, and over time, you should start to feel some release of the hips and sit deeper into the position. From stiff beginner to athlete, everyone can get something out of this position. We use it in various forms in our program, Master Mobility. This is a 12-week program that combines daily positions like deep squat with active stretches like 90-90. Use code reverse sitting and I'll give you a nice discount. Big shout out to all the coaches that I featured in this video. I've learned a lot from all of them. I'll drop links to their pages in the description box below. Have you used 90-90 or Shinbox in your own training? Which variation interests you the most? Drop us a comment, as always. If you want to see a part 2 using Shinbox flow-oriented training, I left some stuff out of this video in hopes that I'd share it in the future. Drop a comment, let me know.